Hi there. I'm going to read Psalm 60 to you this morning and share a few key words and explore a little bit insight into this psalm. So hope you enjoy and you're blessed. And this is Psalm 60. It's a psalm of David, and it says when he fought Naharaim and Aram Zobah, when Joab returned and struck down 12,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. So that's the stage is set. And I love how David wrote down and was used to write down his psalms and his journalings and his cries and his prayers. It's very helpful to meditate on and healing to the soul. So here we go, Psalm 60, and we'll let you have it. You have rejected us, O God, and burst forth upon us. You have been angry. Now restore us. You have shaken the land and torn it open. Mend its fractures, for it is quaking. You have shown your people desperate times. You have given us wine that makes us stagger. But for those who fear you, you have raised a banner to be unfurled against the bow. Selah. Save us and help us with your right hand, that those you love may be delivered. God has spoken from his sanctuary. In triumph I will parcel out Shechem and measure off the valley of Succoth. Gilead is mine, and Manasseh is mine. Ephraim is my helmet, Judah is my scepter. Moab is my wash basin. Upon Edom I toss my sandal. Over Philistia I shout in triumph. Who will bring me to the fortified city? Who will lead me to Edom? Is it not you, O God, you who have rejected us and no longer go out with our armies? Give us aid against the enemy, for the help of man is worthless. With God we will gain the victory, and he will trample down our enemies. David is recognizing that his life and the life of his men around him have been, God has allowed an earthquake. It could have been a physical one, but maybe it was a spiritual one, a spiritual awakening in his life and his heart to realize, wait, things are messed up and things are broken. And in verse 1 he says, you've rejected us, O God, and burst forth upon us. You've been angry, now restore us. Why would God reject us? Is it to maybe teach us a lesson? To help us be aware of, whoa, we're not doing as well as we thought. We need to get back in line. Or, when you see a military general reject one of his troops, or a whole battalion, send them off running or doing push-ups or something, it's something isn't right. The general's angry, and they're having an awakening, an earthquake awakening. It says you have shaken the land and torn it open. In other words, my life has been shooken up. Things are open and exposed and raw. Places that I didn't even knew were like that. You've messed me up. I'm broken, fractured, and mend its fractures, for it is quaking. Things are just shaken up in my life. Have you ever had the Lord just shake your life and this is an example of that. You have shown your people desperate times. Desperate times. You have given us wine that makes us stagger. God is just bringing about change in David's life and affecting change through means of shaking up his life. Verse 4 says, but those who fear you, you have raised a banner to be unfurled against the bow. Selah. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and we're called to fear God and not man. And with fear and trembling, to work out your own salvation before the Lord. And this is the people of the world. They don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. They are looking to themselves, and they don't fear God. And David here is just going back through and going, okay, things have messed up, you've rejected us, you've changed us, you've given us earthquakes, something, we've made you upset, we fear you, you can do anything, the Lord sits in heavens and he does whatever he pleases. That's in Psalms. And David is crying out again in verse 5. He says, save us and help us with your right hand. Your right hand. The right hand is maybe God's right-handed. Maybe that's his strong side or his strong hand. I don't know. That those you love may be delivered. David is asking for help. He's troubled. His life's a mess, and he needs help. And verse 6, it says, God has spoken from his sanctuary. I love this part. I love this part. It's like God speaks out of the physical things around and uses them for spiritual lessons. And it says, for God has spoken from his sanctuary. What's a sanctuary? It's a sanctuary is a holy place, a reverent place, a safe place, a good spot, a place of reverence and worship, and an altar, a place of a humble place, filled with the presence of the Almighty, filled with the Most High God, filled with God himself, and he dwells in the sanctuary. It says, in triumph I will parcel out Shechem and measure off the valley of Succoth. Just the other day I drove by a field and it had been parceled out. It had huge colorful flags on the parcel, and it was a big plot of land, but this one section had been parceled out. It had been measured, and every flag that had bright flags on it was the border. And so somebody who wanted to come by and buy that land would know that everything within those bright, colorful flags was the section that was parceled out. And that's what I think of when he says, in triumph, I will parcel out Shechem. In other words, God is going to do something here. God is going to change something in David's life, and he's sharing, in triumph, I will parcel out Shechem. I wish I knew what Shechem stood for. I'll have to do more study. Measure off the valley of Succoth. You got think of like a lineman or somebody who's really careful and precise with its lines and measurements. Here's being measured off. Gilead is mine, and Manasseh is mine. Let's stop right there. What doesn't the Lord own? The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. For example, I work with barnwood. I have some really old 60-year-old barnwood beams that have been rubbed on and messed up and by cattle and horses and stalls and stuff. But they're not mine. I'm just using them, and they're part of my life right now. But before there were beams, there were trees. And whose trees were those? Maybe they were on somebody's property, right? Or maybe the trees were from a distant land or whatever. But who planted the trees? Who made the trees grow? Who made the soil for the trees to produce and thrive and reach to the sky? The answer is simple. It's God the Creator. God's a creator. Created the sea. He created the earth. He created the soil. He created the seeds. He created the water. And one day he allowed the tree to be cut down and turned into beams. And then it was produced into a big place to produce cattle and stalls and into a big barn. And then one day the barn wasn't supposed to be there anymore, and so lo and behold, I get to come along and salvage and reclaim these old beams and put them to a different use. And I get to use the wood, but it's not mine. I'm just a steward of it. Everything is the Lord's. He controls everything. The ants in the ground, the bees in the sky, everything. People, humans, everything is for His purpose and His purpose alone. Um, and hopefully we're on his team when so we don't get cast away into utter darkness forever and ever. I'm reminded of the verse that says, "Do not fear those who can kill the body, but him who is able to kill both body and soul in hell, destroy both body and soul in hell." Fear God, not man. Fear God in your life. If you don't know God, I'd encourage you to study the scriptures, to cry out to Him, to open up your life, to have a relationship with Him. I'm finding that myself included, absolutely, that we, including the people around me, are stuffed so full of ourselves that we don't make very much room for God at all. And it takes a lot to dig out and to clear out in our lives so we can make room for God to exist in us and have His way with us, to use us. I encourage you to figure out what that means in your life. Going on, it says, Ephraim is my helmet, Judah is my scepter, Moab is my wash basin, and Edom I toss my sandal. It's great. I picture the Lord just coming home from a big long day or from the battlefield and just taking off his dirty sandals and throwing them in this big bin or something, basket, and then going over to Moab, going over to wash his hands, wash his feet, wash his face, and clean up and from the battle. And this is pretty cool stuff. Who will bring me to the fortified city? Who will lead me to Edom? Is it not you, O God? You who have rejected us and will no longer go out with our armies? I've experienced that before, going into battle, going onto a golf tournament, or going into a situation where I was just relying on self-confidence and outracing the Lord and not counting on Him as my strength and my shield, and you just get totally annihilated. You don't do well at all, and sometimes you do poorly despite the fact. But I think here he's speaking of, man, we went out to fight in a battle and take more ground, take more land, and you weren't there with us. Something's messed up. Something isn't cued in tune in David's life. His game is off, and maybe he needs to get back to the drawing board. Verse 11 says, "Give us aid against the enemy, for the help of man is worthless." David here is at least confessing that no matter how many chariots he has, no matter, in golfer terminology, it doesn't matter if you have the perfect swing or the right equipment or all the money in the world, all that, chariots, horses, strength of your own self and your own self-effort, it won't prevail against the enemies in your life. You need the Lord to rescue you, to save you, to fight your wars, and to give you strength to wrestle. Remember we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, but with the spiritual forces of darkness, the rulers and authorities in the dark world. And so we can't beat those enemies in our lives, apathy and depression, and if we're relying on our own strength. We need to be strengthened by the Lord. And so the question I would have for all of us is, how do we do that? What do we do? Where do we draw our strength from? Are we drawing from His well, or are we doing something else to try to muster up strength? But I love David's underlying heart here. He's going, wait, things are happening. I messed up. I know I can't rely on myself. God help. And he's crying out for help and for aid, spiritual aid. Verse 12, it says, "With God we will gain the victory, and He will trample down our enemies." David is giving credit where credit is due. In verse 12, he says, "With God we will gain the victory, and He will trample down our enemies." Doesn't say I will trample down my enemies. I'm going to go fight them and bury them. No, it says He will trample down our enemies. We just show up on the scene and allow Him to do what He wants to do through us and in us. And we can't leave God out of that. Have a good day. Bye.